Hey, I'm Jake over at DECKED here in Ketchum, Idaho. Thanks for joining us. We're going to spend about 25 minutes talk to you about DECKED, some features and benefits, a little deeper dive than we do in our catalog. So thanks for joining us. Most of you already know DECKED, storage system for your pickup truck. DECKED's 12 inches tall. It's a really simple question that we get all the time. It's 12 inches tall. Most truck beds are 22 inches tall, so we've got about 10. This is a Tundra. We've got 10 inches remaining. Why do we do all that? Well, real simple. It's a storage system, but you can still use your truck bed, so you can still put 2,000 pounds up here. It's actually engineered in Detroit. It'll actually handle 6,000 pounds up and down for a moment in time. We'll get to that in a second. We lift the bed of your truck, real simple, so you can have ergonomic storage and access to your gear. Most people put tools, safety gear, rifles, fishing rods, whatever you can think of in there. 200 pounds of storage in each drawer, 2,000 pounds up top, and yeah. Let me walk you through how we do that. We've got a bin in each corner. We call these bins ammo cans. They're not. They're just storage bins. We've got one in each corner. So these are not waterproof. These are. We'll get to that in a second. Anything that's just loose in your bed, straps, cables, chains, we were going to hitch. Nice, secure place to put those. These are going to put drain holes in the bottom of these things. So the first thing they are is storage bins. Second thing these things do is this is structure. When I'm standing around up here, I'm standing on a steel ladder that you can't see. So I'm going to tell you about that. The uprights on our ladder essentially are these steel beams. This is a 12-pound or 10-pound piece of E-coated 13-gauge steel, and it runs front to back. It's held up by these ammo cans. So in each corner we have these cans. They hold up that piece of steel. In the deck, we have steel tubes that run this way. So in a ladder analogy, this would be where I'd put my feet. These would be the uprights. And then this bottle opener is just covering up a big decorative I-beam, which I'll show you here in a second. The third thing these ammo cans are doing is this is how we attach it to the truck. So we've got different hooks, different brackets, different receptacles in the bins, and that's how we attach it to the truck. So these bins are real important, and they serve quite a few different purposes. So, ergonomic storage, still get to use your truck bed. Whole thing weighs about 200 pounds. Why do you care? Well, most of the people who come to our website find us because they either typed in the words DECKED, which is good, shows that our marketing team's doing the right things, or they type in truck bed organizer. And we're probably in that business, although we don't think of it as a truck bed organizer. But certainly, if you've got a junk show in the back of your truck, if you've got stuff all over the cab of your truck or your van, you want to keep your stuff dry, secure, organized, and easy to get to, we're for you. So that's kind of how people think of our product and probably how they found us. And you can also maintain your dignity if you've seen some of our stuff online. Why do we do all that? Well, simply put, we think this sucks. We've done this our whole lives. We've crawled into the back of trucks. We've had to crawl into vans. From an ergonomic perspective, anytime you reach and grab and lift something, that's really bad on your back. This is a lot easier. So work easier, make your work more efficient so that you can spend more time in the field doing the things you really like to do. Out here in Idaho, anything that involves a small motor or outdoor activities are the things that we do with our stuff. It's probably what you guys do with yours. We had a human factors engineer, a retired human factors engineer from General Motors, do a little ergonomics study for us. And like I said, this is a really bad thing to do from a worker health perspective. In ergonomics, they talk about something called the power zone. The power zone just says that if you're going to lift things, keep it real close to your torso. You're not having to reach. It's right in between your shoulder and your belt. This is where you want to lift things. You don't want to be crawling into the bed. You don't want to be reaching And DECKED very simply promotes ergonomic storage of gear, tools, make it accessible, make it safe. So any of your customers that are looking for a way to just organize their gear, their tools, this is a really smart way to do that. Second benefit with DECKED is that we say it's weatherproof, which is this nebulous word. What it means is nothing outside is going to affect DECKED. We talked about the bins in the corner, the ammo cans. Those are not waterproof. These essentially are. The drawers are not going to get rain in them. They're not going to get snow in them. Anything that's airborne particulate can get in the drawers. What's airborne particulate? It's dust. The drawers are not sealed up tight like Tupperware, so anything that's dust, anything that's in the air can get in the drawers. Simple way to think about that is my little pinky is in the drawer. So you can just sort of think of it that way. The ammo cans are not waterproof. Car washes create lots of mist. Mist is airborne particulate. Just be mindful of that as you're using the product. Secure. If we lift the tailgate on this Tundra, virtually all modern trucks have a locking tailgate now. So you can't see this, but there's about an inch space between the tailgate and the deck system. You can't get into the deck system if that tailgate's locked. In a GM truck, that distance will be about 4 inches. That's what how we modulate one set of tools to fit all these different trucks. But essentially, if that tailgate's up, you can't get into the deck system. Basically, everything that's out of sight, it's out of mind, and that's our form of security. The beauty about this is that DECKED is, we've sort of talked about it as an alternative to a toolbox because it is a toolbox. The other thing it is in our minds, it's it's a tonneau cover in reverse. You still get to use your whole truck bed. So what's interesting about a truck bed is if we were just measuring the space in between the wheel wells, we'd have about 48 or 50 inches. But because DECKED takes your bed of your truck and lifts it above your wheel wells, you've now got 70, 71 inches of utility of this bed. So yeah, we raised it 12 inches, which is a drag. Gravity's always tough to deal with. But we've made your bed way more flat and useful potentially than it was before. So it's a compromise, it's a trade-off, but you get a lot of good utility out of the bed, which oftentimes you don't with other types of systems in the back of your truck. Some of the features. Let's run a quick video. Okay, back to my ugly mug. So we just did that fancy video for you. Here's the actual parts. As I was mentioning to you, on the deck itself, we mold in galvanized steel tubes. So in a short box truck, there'll be 6 of these tubes. In a standard box truck, there'll be 7 of these tubes. They're oriented vertically. We tell you on the top, wherever the dimples are on the top of the deck, that's where the steel tubes are. So in my ladder analogy, this would be what I'm stepping on. And the vertical members of my ladder are this piece of steel. This is, like I said, an E-coated piece of steel. It's a wheel channel, and it's a structural member for us, and that'd be on the outbound side. And then right in the center, that's what a vert looks like. So highly engineered 15, 20-pound piece of HDPE. The decks actually rest on these bosses. But that gives you an idea what the center of the part looks like, and how we can get so much load carrying capacity on top of that thing. HDPE, let's talk about that in just a second. So 32% of the weight of the deck system is steel. The other part is HDPE. It's this black stuff. This black stuff is basically ground up pallets. If you think about a modern nesting pallet, typically they weigh 30 pounds. You can put up to 30,000 pounds on top of them. They live outside, and they get run into by a forklift all day. So after about 3 or 4 years of thinking about how to productize this product category, we thought of HDPE, and we couldn't be happier with it. Super durable material, basically impervious to the elements. We put a bunch of UV inhibitor in it, so if it's outside, no problem. The steel, 100% recycled HDPE. Most of our steel is recycled. We treat this stuff with auto-grade rust inhibitors. So that's an SC3 coating. OEs, car companies would spec an SC2 coating. Here, this is a Geomet 1000 coating on that hook. Car company would typically specify a Geomet 720. That's stainless. All our topside hardware is stainless. This is a die-cast handle with a clear powder on it. All that means, for those of you in Syracuse, New York, is this stuff will rust slower. But we've kind of gone as far as we can with regards to trying to keep the rust away. But it'll rust slower. So what does that all mean? So we engineer this thing in Detroit. When we talk about a 2,000 pound deck load rating on this thing, we've actually engineered it to handle 6,000 pounds this way, 4,000 pounds left to right for a moment in time. That's the same way the beds are rated. We know the guy's going to overdo it at times. We can handle that, not a problem. We've built that into the product. I've talked to you a little bit about the structure. I don't think we need to go through that again. Basically, we have a bin in each corner, steel running front to back, steel running across, and that vert right down the middle. Let's talk about the deck halves for just a second. So what we do, if you can see, is along the side of the bed wall, that's perfectly formed. We're kind of plus or minus 2/1000ths of an inch when we make this part. And then what we do is we got to bring it back in a 1/2 inch. And we bring it back in a 1/2 inch to accommodate two things. The first one is spray-in liners, oftentimes are about 1/8 of an inch thick. And then the second thing we have to do is we have to make sure that we can accommodate the fact that your truck, unfortunately, is not oftentimes square left to right. So what we need you to do when you're doing an install with DECKED is be really careful that that center beam, that vert, is centered in the center rib or the center trough of your truck. So that's super important. What's not important is how much space there is on the side. So in this Tundra, I can put one knuckle of my finger in here, and I can put 2 knuckles in over here. But I've got this beam, our vert, perfectly centered. Whatever is left on the side, unfortunately, we're the product that just confirms for you that that truck's not perfectly square. The other thing we do is, remember our steel tubes, we tell you right on the top through these dimples where the steel tubes are, and then we sell accessory tracks. And what we do here is we have these custom milled for us, and then we mount these tracks directly into the steel tubes. So in this example, we have load locks through our core tracks, 500-pound load limit on each of these loops because we're going into steel. Let's take a look at the drawer for a second. That's what a drawer looks like when it's not in a deck system. Kind of a nice view is we put steel, it's the same recipe. We take HDPE, we put steel on the underside of these top rails, put a whole bunch of steel in the back of it, steel brackets here, steel tube across the back here. Part of the reason the drawers roll real smooth is that this drawer is super rigid. So you can't really see that, but I feel like I'm stronger than this is, but I'm not. So this has got a bunch of strength this way and this way because we put steel on the underside here. And like we talked about earlier, big oversized handle. So if it's cold out, got a glove on, not going to be a problem. These channels in the bottom of the drawer are how we define how far out the drawer pulls. So this is a drawer for a short truck, so 61-inch long drawer pulls out 4 feet. If this was going into a standard box truck, the drawer would be a little bit longer, it would still pull out 4 feet. We do that, it's a compromise. We put the stop in the drawer though, so in case your customer is driving off this way, we don't want his tools going that way. So we put a stop in it. The tools are still going to be there when he gets to figure out that he didn't close the tailgate. Second thing we do is that this drawer is not going to hit the tailgate. So designed not to hit the tailgate. As you're rolling that in and out, you got 100 pounds in there, fine, we're not going to hit that tailgate. Lastly, as we talked about earlier, this drawer isn't sealed up tight like Tupperware. You know, anything that's in the air, just be mindful of that. And a little dust can get in there. I grew up in North Dakota. In North Dakota, in the winter, you can look straight at the sun because all the water vapor in the air is frozen. Well, if the water vapor in the air is frozen, that's now airborne particulate, and you could open this drawer and you could find a gram of water in the form of frozen water vapor there. It didn't snow in the drawer, it just happened to be the air froze. So that's the kind of thing that you can have, and just be mindful of that. The drawers, like we talked about, 61-inch long drawer for a short box truck. If you've got a standard box truck, it's 72 inches. The internal height, 8 3/8. So from the bottom to the top rail of the drawer, 8 3/8, and then you have 3/8 of clearance above that. So you get almost 9 inches of vertical availability on a 12-inch tall system. That's hard to do, but that's the limit. We talked about how we hook into the tie downs. So again, we'll use different brackets, different length J hooks, different receptacles in our ammo can to do that. Why do we do that? We do that because that's valid. This is going to keep this in a -1 G load. So that's all validated, it's good. And lastly, we don't think your customer wants to take his brand new $60,000 truck and have us be drilling holes in the bed. So we don't have to. But most of our customers end up buying about $100 worth of accessories from us when they buy a deck system. Let me tell you about that a little bit. Most of you probably have seen the D-Box by now. D-Box is a nesting toolbox, meaning it's perfectly formed to fit in that drawer. You put ribs on the bottom of it to interface with the divider slots in the bottom of the drawer. Everywhere we put that, it's going to stay there. So put a handle here, put a handle there. We put 2 handles here. I can slide that. Wherever I want to put that, it's going to stay. It's going to perfectly fit in there. You can fit 2 of those D-boxes in any of the short systems, drawers, so 4 for a short system. And in a standard box system, which is a longer drawer, you could put 3 of those boxes in, 2 drawers, give you 6. So that's how that plays out. Dividers, we sell these $20 for a set of 4 of those. You can now organize your gear vertically. Accessory locks, we talked about the primary security on the deck system would be locking your tailgate. Law enforcement, when they're putting long rifles in these drawers, always need a secondary lock. So we sell these secondary locks. These are $40 retail for a set of 2. And then we've got 2 different kinds of tracks. This is a core tracks with a load lock on it. So in this truck, we've covered up your tie downs. This is how we put the tie downs back. We also have a similar track, aluminum track, similarly milled to drill into or mount into the steel tubes. And those would be to accommodate your Yakima Thule accessories. You want to put bikes, kayaks, skis on top, no problem. We also, a few months ago, introduced DECKED for cargo vans. So transit vans, Sprinter, ProMaster, G-Van, NV. Go ahead and mount shelves on top of it, not a problem. We have a PDF on our site which will show you how to mount van shelves onto that. And it's a beautiful application, particularly in like a G-van or any of the low roof vans, low roof transit van. By definition, that guy's doing this to get in. If you're in a low roof van, that is by definition a not ergonomic vehicle. So anytime that poor guy, service worker's got to get in and out of a low roof van, he's hunched over, and DECKED just changes that completely and turns that low roof vehicle into a pretty ergonomic work vehicle. Let's talk about some do's and don'ts on an install. All over the carton, the instructions, we've got a hang tag inside. It says don't use power tools and don't use power tools. Now, we know you're going to use power tools. So what does that really mean? What it really means is don't use an impact wrench and don't use an air tool. And the reason for that is there's no way to get the torque setting on those devices low enough to deal with what we're trying to get done. We'll know if you did that, and here's why. What happens when you use an air tool is, particularly when we mount it to the tie downs, is that you'll crown a DECKED product. You'll actually pre-tension this thing because the air tool wants to take the deck and make it hit the floor. So the whole thing's just crowned. Don't do that. If you have to, and most of us do, take a cordless drill, set it on 3, set it on a very low torque setting, get everything put together, then take a really small ratchet and get it that tight. That's how tight we want it to be. Just get it snug. You'll feel it. When it gets to where it's supposed to go, it'll be properly tensioned at that point. That's how much torque we're looking for. If you use an impact wrench and an air tool, you're going to end up with a bad install. The next thing you can do that's wrong is that this weather strip on the end of the drawer is intended to do one thing. There's a drip edge on this deck. 99.9% of that water is just going off that drip edge. We will get a few drops of water right on the top of that drawer edge. The weather strip is designed, if anything hits here, it's going to deflect out. That weather strip has got a windshield wiper blade on it. That blade's got to face the driver. If you call in and say to us, hey, I've got water in a deck drawer, 99% of the time it's because this got put on backwards. Because if you put this on backwards and that windshield wiper blade is facing the tailgate, instead of keeping water out of the drawer, we've created a perfect funnel and it'll direct water into the drawer. So be really careful about that. On the new ones, it actually says this side faces driver, not tailgate. So that's the big bugaboo. Things to be careful about on the install, make sure that that center I-beam, that vert, gets centered. We obviously work just fine with spray-in liners, as you can see with this truck. We don't work with drop-in liners. Make sure that when you're done, make sure that there's good spring tension on that handle. If there's not, there's a 1-minute and 8-second video on our website. It'll show you how to do that. You can literally do this with a ballpoint pen and no tools. So that's really easy to get this right. If you take 1 minute and 8 seconds, it'll show you on that video how to do it. The ammo cans, remember, are not waterproof. There are little dimples in the bottom. Drill them with a nice big 1/2-inch hole. They'll drain just fine. If you're going to put it under a tonneau or in a van or under a shell, you don't need to do that. HDPE we talked about. It's made like a pallet. A bunch of UV inhibitor in it. The operating range of this material is -150 to +250. I hope you don't operate outside of that range. Most of our steel is recycled. As I said earlier, about 30% of the weight of a deck system, or about 70 pounds of material, is steel. If your customer doesn't hear about 70 pounds of steel, you know, we're not going to get a sale. Try and emphasize that a little bit for us. Things to know about it. The weight rating on the deck is 2,000 pounds. We've said you can overdo it with weight. What you can't do is, we say, hey, you can put 2,000 pounds on a deck system, but you can't put a 2,000 pound cannonball on it from outer space. Our recipe is essentially 2,000 pounds over 40 square feet, so it's 50 pounds per square foot. You can put more on there. We don't recommend it. What you can't do, though, is put a 600-pound welder with high-heeled shoe legs on it, because now you're going to have 150 pounds of weight on a 1 square centimeter foot, you know, and after a year, Diego's going to call you and say, my deck cracked. Okay, so just be a little bit mindful about if you do have heavy weights on there, make sure we get it distributed over more than high-heeled shoe legs. We've talked about the drawer extension. That is something that people wish the drawer came out farther. I wish drawers in general came out farther. No drawer on earth pulls out 100%. Ours pulls out 48 inches out of 61 inches or 48 inches out of 72 inches, depending on which system length you have. Just be clear to the customer, hey, that drawer is going to come out 4 feet. It's not going to come out 6 feet. We've been working on a system for 8-foot trucks. That'll be out next month. April 1, we should be having those available for you. It's not really an 8-foot system. It's a standard box system. So it's the typical 75-inch system that would go in a 6.5-foot bed. We orient that towards the tailgate, and we have room for a transfer tank or a toolbox in front of it. But we give you a secondary set of tie downs so we can get a valid install with that. So look for that. And then what we're really excited about is that we have an entirely new set of tooling. We have another 100,000 pounds of tooling coming. We take receipt of that in late April. We'll be running tests. That'll be for Frontier, Tacoma, Colorado Canyon. We hope to be shipping those to you in about June. It'll look very similar, but it's an entirely new product for us. It goes into, it installs differently, but all the features that you've seen in DECKED and then some. So look for that. And then how is DECKED? We're engineered in Detroit. We're made in Holiday City, Ohio. We're kind of the Economic Development Committee of Williams County, Ohio. Virtually all our vendors and manufacturing partners are in that part of the world. We ship LTL, as most of you know, and we typically run, we always run a min-max, so depending on what SKU you want, we should never be out. So you got to wait the LTL to get it, but we're probably going to have it in stock. And that's what I got. Is that a bottle opener? Well, heck yes, it's a bottle opener. It's a bottle opener because we got 8 cup holders. And if you want to forget about the fact that the drawer is weatherproof, you can fill that with beverages and ice and have a good time with it. And anybody else got other questions? I think I mentioned the system weight's about 200 pounds for a short box system. Standard box system would be about 220 pounds. The van SKUs are 5 or 7 pounds heavier than that. There's more parts in those boxes. What else can I answer for you? Hey, we really appreciate you joining us today. Couldn't be happier to have you as a dealer with us. And call us with any questions, email us, and thanks for being with us today.